The desert air buzzed with the roar of F-16 fighter jets cutting through the sky. It was a high-stakes military drill where only the best pilots, engineers, and tech minds came to prove themselves. Among the sea of uniforms, medals, and hardened faces was someone no one expected, a quiet woman in her late 30s named Asha. She wore simple clothes, carried a modest backpack, and kept to herself. To the others, she didn't fit. No combat boots, no military posture. Just a soft-spoken woman with a laptop and a badge that raised more questions than answers. Some snickered when she walked by. A few even whispered jokes behind her back. What's she going to do? Knit a firewall. They couldn't believe she had been called in by top command as a civilian code expert, especially not for an operation involving the Rafale, one of the most advanced multi-role fighter jets in the world. To them, she was just a backup, a formality, someone to tick a box. But Asha had seen this before, judged not by her work, but by her silence, her simplicity, her lack of swagger. What no one knew was that Asha had spent years designing encrypted command protocols, systems so secure they'd never been cracked. And today, she had been asked to patch a last-minute vulnerability that could leave the drills exposed to interference. While others dismissed her presence, Asha quietly took her seat at the mobile command tent, fingers flying over her keyboard. Every line of code she typed was layered with purpose. Hidden behind her calm face was a storm of precision and focus. Then, as two Rafales took off for a simulated enemy intercept, the control center screens flickered. A strange override alert appeared. Known command source detected. The pilots reported sudden flight restrictions mid-air, and moments later, both jets were locked in a maneuver neither of them had initiated. Gasps filled the room. Asha didn't look surprised. She stood up slowly, eyes fixed on the frozen screens, and said just 6 words. "That's not a malfunction. It's me." And just like that, silence turned to shock. What had she done? And why? For a moment, no one moved. The control room, once filled with chatter and static, went dead silent. All eyes turned to Asha, the woman they'd barely noticed until now. A few officers stepped closer, confused, unsure if this was some kind of joke or a serious breach. Asha's face gave nothing away. Calm, focused, like someone who had planned every second of this. One of the commanders, Colonel Mara, demanded an explanation. "What do you mean it's you? What did you do to the Rafales?" His voice was sharp but laced with worry. These were billion-dollar machines, flying with some of the top pilots in the Air Force, and now their controls were compromised mid-flight. Asha didn't flinch. "I wrote a lockdown protocol last year, a test script. It was never meant to be used, just a safeguard in case of cyber intrusion. But someone's been tampering with the system. I detected traces of a shadow signal this morning, buried deep in the comms link. If I hadn't activated the script, we would have lost full control." The room erupted. People shouted over each other. Some doubted her. Others started scanning the network, trying to find the trace she mentioned. Asha stayed still. She had seen signs like this before: backdoors, hidden code injections, the kind that look harmless until it's too late. She'd warned about it months ago. No one listened then. Now they were listening. But the real problem wasn't just the Rafales in lockdown. It was what had tried to override the system in the first place. The code signature wasn't foreign. It was familiar, too familiar. Which meant the threat wasn't coming from outside. It was coming from somewhere inside the base. And Asha wasn't done uncovering it. Asha stepped back from the terminal as technicians swarmed around it. Some still looked at her with suspicion, while others started to realize she might be the only one who truly understood what was going on. Outside, the 2 Rafales remained airborne, circling and holding patterns, their pilots locked out of full Control, guided only by basic overrides. Every second they stayed in the air without answers increased the risk. Colonel Mara kept a close eye on her. But there was a shift in his tone, now not quite trust, but no longer dismissal either. "You said the code signature looked familiar? Whose is it?" Shea hesitated. "It was written using an internal framework. One I helped develop during a classified AI combat program 2 years ago. But this version has been altered. Someone's modified it, added layers I never approved. That means someone with access, someone from inside, has been working on this behind closed doors." In another part of the base, a young drone technician named Karen overheard the conversation through the comms feed. He froze. Weeks ago, he'd noticed strange code fragments in a diagnostic file and flagged it to his supervisor. But the issue was buried. "Not our concern," they said. Now, hearing Asha speak, the pieces clicked. He hurried to dig out his old report, hands shaking. Meanwhile, in the strategy room, 2 high-ranking officers exchanged glances. They knew more than they were admitting. A covert program had been tested months ago, one designed to enable remote overrides in combat aircraft under emergency protocols. But the project had been shelved, or so they claimed. Now, it was active. And someone had turned it into a weapon. Asha sat down again, opening a secure terminal only she had access to. Her fingers moved fast, tracing the source of the signal. Each line of code led her deeper not just into the system, but into a network of encrypted files hidden under fake identities and erased logs. Someone had gone to great lengths to stay invisible, but not invisible enough. She paused when one name appeared partially redacted, but unmistakable. Someone she once trusted. And that's when the second alert came in. Another aircraft system had just been compromised. The base sirens wailed again, sharper this time. Inside the control center, the tension snapped into chaos. A second aircraft. Systema Mirage 2000 had just reported a control anomaly mid-air. The pilot's voice crackled over the comms, strained and confused. "I'm losing primary nav. Switching to backup." "Wait, it's unresponsive." Everyone scrambled. Asha's screen lit up with cascading data. Another breach. But this one wasn't triggered by her protocol. It had bypassed her lockdown entirely. That meant the intruder wasn't just inside the system. They were evolving. Colonel Mara moved quickly. "Is this the same code path?" he asked. Asha scanned the data. "No, this one's cleaner, more direct. Someone's refining the attack as we speak." In a dimly lit server room across the base, Karen was deep into the files he'd flagged. Months ago, he traced old access logs linking to an account that had been deleted weeks earlier, except fragments still remained. Someone had used ghost credentials to access the simulation servers during off hours. His stomach dropped when he found the terminal ID. It wasn't random. It was assigned to someone in the high command. Back in the control tent, Asha was sweating. Now, not from fear, but from the sheer speed at which the attacker was moving. Every time she closed one pathway, another opened. This wasn't a brute force hack. It was surgical, intentional, like someone was sending a message, "Know the system better than you do, Colonel." Mara brought in a cyber forensics officer, but even he seemed overwhelmed. The only person still calm was Asha, her eyes locked on. The code, the redacted name she saw earlier, kept flashing in her mind. She hadn't spoken it out loud yet. She wasn't ready to believe it, but the logs kept pointing in the same direction. An ex-program lead, a mentor, someone who once worked beside her on the same AI flight systems project that had been shelved. Suddenly, her screen went black. System override. Level 5 access detected. The entire base was now vulnerable, and someone, possibly one of their own, is about to take full control of every fighter in the sky. Asha stared at the black screen, her fingers hovering just above the keyboard. The sudden override wasn't just an attack, it was a warning. Whoever was behind this had just jumped 5 layers of security in less than 10 seconds. That wasn't supposed to be possible, even for her, especially not without being physically present on the base. But then it hit her. What if they are here? She whispered. Colonel Mara glanced at her. What did you say? She turned toward him. We've been assuming the attacker's remote. But this last move, it came from a local node. This one's already inside our system center. Right now, the colonel's expression hardened. He gave a quiet order, and within seconds, security teams were dispatched to sweep the base's lower levels. Every technician, every officer, every piece of equipment was now a suspect. Meanwhile, Karan found something else, an encrypted file folder marked Mock Training, a SHA variant. Confused, he opened it and froze. Inside were simulations, dozens of them, featuring her own lockdown code, being tested, manipulated, and used to trigger false failures. Someone had been studying her work in secret, trying to mimic her exact style. Only one person had access to both the AI program archives and the secure simulation. Network Commander Rajiv, Sanusha's former project lead, thought to have retired after the AI program was shut down, but according to a hidden log, his credentials had been reactivated 3 days ago under emergency clearance. Asha's heart pounded. Rajiv's not retired. He's here, or at least, he's watching. Before Mara could respond, a new alert popped up. Myonulized communication uplink established. The base's satellite relay was now being used to transmit flight data. Externally, they're not just hijacking aircraft, Asha said, voice low. They're